Well, I am Rick Santorum, and it's great to be here, and I want to thank AEI Heritage for one constitutional responsibility of the federal government, and that is national security. And I think we can all agree that if you like what Barack Obama has done to our economy, you'll love what he's done to our national security.
Under certain circumstances in the past, you've supported profiling. Is that correct?
I have.
What do you have in mind?
Well, I mean, I think TSA is a good example of that. We should be trying to find the bomber, not the bomb. Other countries have done it. Israel is probably the best example of that. But to put this enormous expense on the federal government, to put the enormous expense on the traveling public for pat-downs and other intrusions, I think is too much money. I agree with Governor Perry. I actually voted when this bill came up. I voted to allow for privatization. I was not for this being a government function. I thought it could be a private function. But the issue of the Patriot Act is a little different. We are at war. The last time we had a threat at home like this, obviously it was much more of a threat at home, was during the Civil War. And of course, Abraham Lincoln ran right over civil rights. Why? Because we had a present domestic threat. In the previous wars that we've had, we haven't had this type of threat that we have here in the homeland, and we have to deal with it differently. I disagree with Governor Huntsman. He made some good points. And we have had the debate. It's been an open debate. It's really showed the values of our country that we can engage in this open debate and balance those interests, and I think we have done so appropriately.
So just to be precise, is it ethnic profiling, religious profiling? Who would be profiled?
Well, the folks who are most likely to be committing these crimes. If you look at it, I mean, obviously it was people. Obviously, Muslims would be someone you'd look at. Absolutely, those are the folks who are the radical Muslims. Are the people that are committing these crimes, as we've by and large, as well as younger males. I mean, these are things that not exclusively, but these are things that you profile to find your best, the most likely candidate. I agree with Ron Paul. We are not fighting a war on terrorism. Terrorism is a tactic. We are fighting a war against radical Islam. And what radical Islam is telling, all the radical Islamist leaders are saying, is that just wait America out. America is weak. They will not stand for the fight. They cannot maintain this. They'll set time limits. Politics will interfere, and we will tell the people in Afghanistan, we will tell the people in Iraq and other places that we will be the strong horse in the region. And President Obama, by making political decision after political decision about timelines and constraints on rules of engagement, has validated everything these radical Islamists are saying. So the answer to you, John, is that you're doing, Governor Huntsman, is that you're in exactly what all the radical leaders are saying is that America will do. That we are not in this to win. We are going to play politics with this, and then we will find this problem in Afghanistan on our shores in a very short order.
My name is Paul Wolfowitz. I'm a visiting scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, and my question is about development assistance. Under George W. Bush, who was a conservative Republican, the United States spent billions of dollars to fight AIDS and malaria in Africa and elsewhere, and set up the Millennium Challenge Corporation to encourage governments of poor countries to pursue policies that promote economic growth and job creation. Do you believe those are still wise expenditures, or do you think that we can no longer afford them?
Senator Santorum.
Well, as the author of the Global Fund Bill and the Millennium Challenge in the United States Senate, and someone who worked with the President on PEPFAR to deal with the issue of AIDS in Africa, I believe it's absolutely essential. Africa was a country on the brink of complete meltdown and chaos, which would have been fertile ground for the radical Islamists to be able to get a foothold. We're seeing it already, but the work that we've done in stabilizing that area, while humanitarian in nature, was absolutely essential for our national security. And I hear people up here talking about zeroing out foreign aid and humanitarian aid in particular. I think that's absolutely the wrong course. You want to spend more money on the military? Zero out all the things we do to develop relationships around the world, and we will spend a lot more money on the military. It's important for us to use all the assets we have. Promote our values. America is that shining city on the hill. It is the city that comes to the aid of those in trouble in the world. We have done more good for America in Africa and in the third world by the things that we've done, and we have saved money and saved military deployments by wisely spending that money, not on our enemies, but on folks who can and will be our friends.
Let me bring Senator Santorum into this because I covered Ronald Reagan's presidency, and as you know, and I'll read a quote, he wrote in his autobiography this: "If you got 75 or 80% of what you were asking for, I say you take it and fight for the rest later." If you got 75 or 80% of what you wanted, would you make a deal with the Democrats, increase some taxes in order to move on and fight the next battle the next day?
It all depends on what the 75 and 85% is. If the things that you have to give up make what you're trying to accomplish harder to do, in other words, reduce the deficit, why the Republicans are drawing a line in the sand, rightfully so, is because what the Democrats are attempting to do is increase taxes, which will slow down this economy, which will increase the deficit, reduce tax revenues ultimately, and increase government payments. So you don't work against yourself. You take ideas from the other side that you may not find particularly valuable, like spending cuts that you may not want. There are spending cuts that I would like to, there are things I mentioned before that I would stand firm on. But in a compromise, yeah, you'd give up some things that you think maybe are critical spending, but you don't undermine the ability of this economy to grow because of politics. This president has poisoned the well. He's campaigned all over this country, trying to divide group from group in order to win, to position himself to win this election, to rally his troops. And what he's done is poisoned the well here in Congress. I've worked together. I've got a long track record of bipartisan accomplishments where I kept to the principles. I use welfare reform as an example. Welfare reform, I stuck to my principles. We cut the welfare budget, we had time limits, we block granted it to the states, and we put a work requirement. Did I compromise on things? Yes, I compromised on some child care, I compromised on some transportation. So I got 75%, but it 100% changed the welfare system because we stuck to our principles.
Nick Schultz, I'm the DeWitt Wallace Fellow at AEI, and I have a question about high-skilled immigration. We hear a lot about low-skilled immigration, so I want to ask you about high-skilled immigration. What would you do to ensure that the United States is as welcoming as possible to the world's skilled immigrants and entrepreneurs?
Senator Santorum?
Well, as the son of a legal immigrant to this country, I strongly believe in legal immigration and believe we are that shining city on the hill, that our future, if you look at all of the jobs that are being created in our economy today, a huge percentage of them come from the legal immigrants to this country who have innovated, who created great products, who created great companies, and employed lots of people. That's one of the reasons that I put together my economic plan, was to take all that great innovation that's coming as a result of part of legal immigration and make sure that those products that are being created are actually made here in America. That's part of the problem that, Reaganomics was criticized as trickle down. The problem is we're not seeing that money trickle down to the blue-collar workers in America, and that's why I put forth a 4-point economic plan to revitalize manufacturing that begins with zeroing out the corporate tax for manufacturers. Also, regulatory reform, repatriation of profits if invested in this country to pay no taxes, and finally, energy policy that will explode the energy industry in this country. We do those things, we'll not only have the innovation, which I support coming from legal immigrants, but we'll have that money trickle down to blue-collar workers, and we can see that income mobility that a lot of people are writing back is not happening in America.
During the 2000 presidential debates, Governor George W. Bush was never asked about the threat from al-Qaeda, yet the battle with al-Qaeda dominated his presidency. What national security issue do you worry about that nobody is asking about either here or in any of the debates so far?
All right, let's go down the line and start with Senator Santorum. Give us a quick answer. What do you think?
Well, I've spent a lot of time and concern, and Rick mentioned this earlier, about what's going on in Central and South America. I'm very concerned about the militant socialists and the radical Islamists joining together, bonding together. I'm concerned about the spread of socialism, and that this administration, with time after time, whether it was the delay in moving forward on Colombia's free trade agreement, whether it was turning our back to the Hondurans and standing up for democracy and the rule of law, and we took the side with Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro for a corrupt president. We've sent all the wrong signals to Central and South America. Maybe the first trip I would take to Israel, but my second trip and third and fourth would be into Central and South America. We need to build a solid hemisphere, and those people and the people in south of our border need to know that we are going to be in solidarity with them and build strong alliances.
Thank you, Senator.